the era of Industrial Revolution 4.0, the most important features are digitizing and intelligent data processing, which have profoundly changed all dimensions of the socio-economic life on a global scale. At the same time, they have created a new turning point for the formation and development of a new commercial method called e-commerce, which is booming in the present time. In addition, the increasingly fierce competition is driving e-commerce companies in Asia to boost investment in technology, especially artificial intelligence. It is considered to help them advance in the race to attract more customers, new customers, and keep recurring customers as well. On today's program, we'll meet with Mr. Christopher Bezelin. He is the chairman of From, a technology development and startup business. He is also the co-founder and chairman of Intrepid e-commerce group.
Hello everyone, welcome to Shen Vietnam on VTC 10 Network channel. I am Rachel, and today I would like to introduce you to Mr. Christopher Bezelin, the chairman and co-founder of Intrepid Group. So if you have interest in e-commerce in general and also in startup in particular, this episode is right for you because Chris is an expert in those fields. So I know that you now can't wait to talk to him any longer. So let's get started. Hi Chris, how are you doing?
Very good. Excited to be here.
So Chris, what are the popular trends in e-commerce nowadays? Could you please share with us?
I think the big trends in e-commerce right now is about social commerce. Yeah, it's about selling through different social channels and followings. So not all of the e-commerce is on the marketplaces or on the e-commerce sites, but it's also through the social channels, the social apps. And you know, one expression of that is the live streaming, for example. We do live streaming e-commerce where you sell through kind of like a TV shopping format, but online, and typically with influencers and key opinion leaders. I think another trend is the direct-to-consumer trend, which is basically where you create brands that are born online. So not the traditional brands that we know from the offline world, but brands that are specifically created to be sold directly to consumer from the brand.
Yeah, I can agree more.
Yes. That also comes from the type of demographic that we have and that we're moving into, and also that you see in this region in particular. So, globally, most of the world's population is below 25. And that trend is strengthening, and especially in this part of the world, you have a lot more younger consumers. And they have these types of shopping behaviors, and they're being more and more promoted through the new social tools that are being launched.
So it is very obvious that technology plays a very significant role in e-commerce development. So what are the crucial technologies needed in e-commerce industry, in your opinion?
E-commerce is interesting because from the beginning, it's the original idea of e-commerce, 20 years ago, is just to replace the traditional store with kind of a laptop and a website. And that's the basic technology that underpins it all. But of course, fast forward to the year 2020, a lot has been added on top of that basic idea of delivering e-commerce. So I think one primary technology trend in e-commerce right now is just the sheer amount of data that we're dealing with. And if you look in Southeast Asia and also in Vietnam, you have the regional marketplaces, you have Lazada, you have Shopee, you have the local marketplaces, Tiki, Sendo, etc., right? And if I'm an e-commerce merchant or a brand or any other type of seller, I collect data on all these platforms, and maybe I'm even, playing with several stores on these platforms, and I'm interacting with thousands of consumers on these platforms. And I have maybe thousands or tens of thousands of products on these platforms. So the combination of all of that becomes a lot of data. And that's only on the marketplaces. Then you also have off-platform data that you're collecting through Facebook and other medias. So I think one technology trend is about this collection, aggregation, and analysis of the data that we have around e-commerce. So many people like this buzzword of big data. I don't really think it's necessary. It's just very clear that there's a lot of data, and the key is really how do you analyze that data and how do you derive actionable conclusions from that data.
Interesting.
And that's a big technology trend in and around e-commerce at the moment.
So AI has greatly promoted the explosion of e-commerce like all over the world. Could you share with me the reasons leading to that?
Actually, it's kind of built on the same trend that we were talking about before. All this data kind of makes it necessary to have automated decision making, to have automated filtering, to have automated, promotion or better exposure for certain things within e-commerce. That cannot be manual. It cannot be analyzed by a person every time. It has to be driven by artificial intelligence, or you can call it just algorithms. I think artificial intelligence is sometimes exaggerating what it really is. It's more about algorithms right now. So basically automated decision trees that can become very, very complex and can derive a lot of interesting filtering and promotions and so on. So for example, the older social media platforms is like Facebook and Instagram and so on. They promote followings and they promote exposure in a certain way. But then you have newer platforms like, for example, TikTok and Parler, etc. They promote exposure in a very different way. And interesting things happen then in the commerce landscape and e-commerce landscape. For example, it's easier for a new creative person to have big success in a channel like TikTok than, for example, a channel like Facebook or Instagram. I think Facebook and Instagram promotes it promotes a strong, big following that you already have. So it creates big barriers for new creative people to come in and have big success immediately. TikTok is different in that sense. It promotes this kind of idea that if you have a creative video or a creative thing you want to show the world, you can quickly achieve bigger followings. So that creates new opportunities in social commerce.
The Vietnam E-commerce Association predicts that if the growth rate in 2020 continues to be at 30%, the size of the e-commerce market will reach about $13 billion. According to the assessment, Vietnam has 59 internet users, and it is forecasted that in 2021 it will reach about 62 million people. This figure is an important reason to promote e-commerce development. Although the e-commerce industry in Vietnam is undergoing fierce competition, it is also considered to be a potential field. It opens up many opportunities for young people to engage, indulge, and create new businesses.
From what I have learned, you were the co-founder and the CEO of Lazada Vietnam, one of the pioneer e-commerce platforms so far in Vietnam. So what are the potential development rooms for e-commerce in Vietnam?
Yes, we started Lazada here 9 years ago in Vietnam, and it's a fantastic company. I love it still. I think in Vietnam in particular, you need to tailor your e-commerce offering to the local demographics. You need to tailor your e-commerce offering to the local specificities about infrastructure. So more specifically, in Vietnam you have a very young population. You need to think about how you address that population. And then in Vietnam you have infrastructural specificities like digital payments in Vietnam. It's not so evolved in Vietnam if you compare to the rest of the region. Still, majority is cash on delivery. Still, 9 years later, even though we started with cash on delivery all these years ago, it still hasn't changed so much. So those are things that, the room to grow for a platform like Lazada Vietnam needs to be tailored to those specificities of Vietnam. I think in addition, it's interesting to see because in Vietnam, when you talk about marketplaces, so you let the sellers and the retailers sell directly to the consumer through a platform like Lazada.
Very interesting.
You need to think about what is the typical Vietnamese merchant like, because the Vietnamese merchant is different than the other countries in the region, very different from a country like Malaysia, for example. And you just go outside in the street and you will see all these small shops everywhere. And if you look at data on different parts of retail, you can see that 80% of retail in many categories is still this type of non-modern trade. Modern trade is still a very small part of retail in Vietnam. Could be 20-25%, and the rest is this local mom and pop shop type of retail. So you need to think about that when you do your marketplace offering as well, and have the right tools for that type of merchant.
Do you think there are many footholds for young startups in Vietnam regarding to e-commerce now?
There's always an opportunity to come in, and there's a great advantage of launching something new in comparison to the big platforms that have a lot of legacy, and they have built their technology in a certain way. They've built their organizations in a certain way. It's not easy to change those things. You don't change them fast. So there's always a great advantage of coming in small, and you can fit your offering perfectly into the opportunity at hand.
Absolutely.
I think specifically in Vietnam and e-commerce, there's still opportunities within niched vertical e-commerce. So if you specialize in a category or even a subcategory, so let's say I want to be the best e-commerce player in table fans in Vietnam. Then I can go to Lazada and Tiki and all of those, and I can check, 3 or 4 levels down in the category tree, how good are they at table fans actually? Do they have all the table fans there are in the region? Do they actually price them competitively? I'm not so sure. If you take and niche yourself in one sub category, you can be very good there. And you can specialize and actually beat even the bigger players. And the other one, I think, is the direct-to-consumer brands again. Even as a small player, you can build your own brand that is unique, that is a unique product, has a unique positioning, and then you sell it directly to the consumer through the marketplaces or through your own e-commerce website. Still a big opportunity there.
If there is something you can share to inspire those who are passionate in startup, what would it be?
My philosophy on these things is that the first one is start small, dream big or think big. Everything starts small. So you don't get too hung up on, okay, now it's so small and I'm just starting out and how will I ever get big? Everything starts small. Even Lazada Vietnam started small. First day we had 80 orders only. And it was only the staff, no real customers. And nowadays they have hundreds of thousands of orders per day. Everything starts small. And then the other one is, dare to start. Your family, your friends, your environment, everybody's going to say that you shouldn't start. It's risky, or will you ever succeed, or don't be unrealistic, things like that. Everything is very small, and you need to dare to start. And the other one, the big second filter, is really dare to not give up. Yeah, most people give up way too early. And typically it's actually the number one reason a company fails is that the key person gives up, not the other way around. It's like you don't stop because the company has failed. The company fails because you stop.
I see, yeah.
So that's the other number two big thing, dare to continue and don't give up.
So Chris, thank you so much for your very inspiring and insightful sharing today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
We wish you health and success in your career and life journey.
Thank you very much, and chúc mừng năm mới.
This is the end of our show today. I hope you can learn something interesting from the show. And thank you for your watching. See you very soon.